I use this analogy because I used to shop for islands during university because that's what I wanted. I want an island. If I tell someone I want an island and they laugh at me, then I know I can't be friends with that person because they're not seeing the same thing I see.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because if you have people who think like you and who want to go as far as you, it doesn't have to be in the same direction, but it's, as long as it's not backwards, but it's far.
Yeah.
Then you guys will innately push each other to do better.
Hey you! Welcome to the Mind the Gap podcast. This show is created by immigrants for immigrants, and it's all about the career journeys that shape our lives, the highs, the lows, and everything in between. Each episode, we bring you inspiring stories from immigrants of all backgrounds, different ethnicities, ages, and career paths to share insights, resources, and advice that will help you navigate your professional career. This podcast is proudly sponsored by Verisold, CMFI NL, and BBI.
Welcome to this episode of Mind the Gap. My name is Shakina and I'm your host for today's episode. And we have with us today
Ife Alaba.
My good sis. Thank you so much for joining us today, Ife. I'm so happy you came because honestly, I can't lie. I've been really trying to have a conversation with you for a minute because you are a resourceful girl. You really are. Like, I really admire you. But for the people that don't know you, can you just introduce yourself, give us a bit of a background story?
It's such a hard thing to do, introduce yourself when you do so many things.
I know.
But I'll try and shorten it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm Ife Alaba. I am Nigerian. I grew up in South Africa. I studied psychology, but it's really a waste of a degree because I do nothing to do with psychology.
I did psychology too.
So yeah, I am a producer. I'm also the founder of Occupy All Spaces. I'm a host in my spare time. I started off as a musician and so much more.
Yeah, guys, Ife does a lot. A lot. Ife is also a really amazing singer. And I was going to ask her to sing a bit for us, but she's not doing the best.
I'm not doing that.
And just a couple of things that I actually have in common with you is that I also lived in South Africa. I did high school in South Africa as well. Psychology. I did psychology as my minor as well. So that's really interesting. So you mentioned that you are the founder of Occupy All Spaces. Tell us a little bit about that and why you started that.
So Occupy All Spaces is a not-for-profit that helps Black people get into the film industry as well as stay into the film industry, whether you want it to be your career or you're just trying it out as a hobby. Because the thing about Newfoundland is it's not a very diverse place, or it's just getting diverse right now. And so you can just imagine film is also everywhere you look. Yay, the white dudes.
Yeah.
So I just felt like when I was on set, I would only see me. And when I go to the bathroom, I just see myself in the mirror because there's no other people of color on set. And it got really frustrating. So luckily, with the help of my mentors and the help of Picture NL, they had some funding. And I was like, I think this would be a great idea to do. Let's have a film camp for Black people. And it was just a bunch of us, random, just people that I knew. And I was like, oh, come, let's try it out. And then we flew in someone from Toronto. And then everyone loved it. So we decided to do another one in 2023. And then I just turned it into a not-for-profit in 2024. So now we do programming, teaching people how to produce, doing an introduction to filmmaking for Black newcomers, and so much more. We're basically making sure that we connect people with the larger industry so that they can be full-time in film if they want.
That is amazing. So if you are anybody watching this, you're interested in film, you want to be a producer, director, actor,
writer. There's
writer.
So many things you can do. People don't realize, even making food, you can do as a career in film.
Yeah.
You can be a snack person. That's someone's day-to-day job, just to get people snacks. And they're the most important people on set because I'm starving. I'm not a great person.
Yeah.
So there's so many things that you can do.
Yeah. So you heard it from the founder of Occupy All Spaces herself. So if you're looking for a place to hone your skills and get experience, that is the place to be. That's the place to go. Anyways, I have a lot of questions that were just emerging as you were speaking. But my first one is, how did you end up here? A lot of people kind of just end up here and then they're not really sure what they're in for. So how did you end up here? What's your coming to Canada story?
Basically, towards the end of my high school, I dropped out of school and then I was homeschooled. And I got really exhausted. So my mom was like, you can take a gap year. And I just happened to be working for a band called Freshly Ground. And so they're the first interracial band in South Africa. And they were huge at that time. And by that time, it was like 2016, back in the day. So yeah, I started working for them, writing for them, doing backup vocals for their new album. And I was in the studio and I met Ed Sheeran. And at that time,
oh my goodness,
I was like, oh my gosh, I've made it in life. And like, they would pay me like 1,000 rand every month, which is not a lot.
But it was a lot then, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I got so excited because I felt like I was contributing.
Yeah.
And I owned another not-for-profit at that time. So I would really just honestly forget to apply to university. And then at some point I was like, I'm making my 1,000 rand. I've made it. I've met Ed Sheeran. There's no need. My mom was like, at the end of the day, you're Nigerian. Like, so missed me with that. I was just living my life, right? And then all of a sudden I look into my email and it goes, congratulations, you've been accepted to Memorial University.
Gang.
Into Bachelor of Science. And I was like, oh, my mom did this. Because I'm really used to her just applying for things for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'll just find out that I have this activity.
Yeah, I remember you telling me that. Yeah.
Like, conferences that I have no clue what I'm doing there, I'll just go because my mom just signed up without me knowing. So this was just one of those things. So I was like, you're taking a bit far now. Canada. Like, do you even know where Newfoundland is? And she does not know where Newfoundland is. So yeah, one of her students who she teaches at University of Cape Town, one of her students went to Memorial University for undergraduate.
Okay.
So she just applied. And then she dropped me off at the airport.
Wow.
And, then I got here and that was it.
That was the beginning.
That was the beginning. And then she only came to visit me like 6 years later.
That is insane. But that coming to Canada story is a very special one. I feel like your mom definitely saw a lot in you that maybe you didn't see in yourself at the time. And that's probably why she just took initiative. She was just like, this kid of mine, she's talented. And if she's not going to put herself out there, I'll do it for her.
I feel like it was one of those things where she's just like, you need to have university education, even if you don't use it. Like, none of her kids, there are two of us, we don't want to do nothing to do with education. Both my parents have PhDs, but that's where it's gonna stop. Like, my brother and I are only getting honorary degrees. We're not doing nothing else after our basic one. But I think she knew the importance of like making sure that we had that foundation, and then whatever we wanted to do after that.
And that's okay. I feel like you're doing a lot already. And so what I was going to ask, as you were talking, I was just thinking about this. So you actually do put yourself out there a lot. You're on YouTube. You have singles out. I've seen you being a host on CBC Radio and on Stuffed and Being Black, right?
Yeah, Stuffed and Being Black in NL.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Why did you feel the need to put yourself out there? Why did you feel the need to do that?
Innately, I'm really like a show person. Like, I'm more like, I'll say it, but will I do it? I don't know.
Yeah.
But
you don't come off that way though.
I'm glad. I think I'm really like, shout out to God because I've really grown. But before, I was really like a talker, but not a doer. But one thing that my mom, because when you have to move so much, you have to create your own family. So the people around us were really crucial to like where we're going. And that's just something that stuck with me. So even when I make friends, my friends are my family.
Yeah.
So they were able to push me into like I was literally sitting down and I was singing, and then a friend of mine was like, oh, you sing, cool, you're performing here. So it's like I was forced into a lot of things rather than choosing to do a lot of things, because I think if God like just left me alone to be by myself, I would not be doing that thing.
I feel you 100%.
So I think it's just people that I have around me that really enable me to do things even now, because I'm very I think big, but then I get overwhelmed by my own thoughts. So.
No, I definitely relate to that. For me, I feel like I also have a lot of like ideas and dreams, that just things that I've always wanted to do, but actually doing them is just a different story, you know, like actually putting pen to paper is a different thing. So I think, having people that were able to like actually put you in the place to do the things you are actually good at is a really, really big gift. And I thank God for that. Thank God for it. Thank God, because God knows his children. He knows his children. He knows what each of us need, right? So what advice would you give somebody who was like you, I guess, trying to put themselves out there, but is unable to break out of their shell on their own?
I think you just need to find your pack. I use this analogy like because I used to shop for islands
Mm-hmm.
during university because that's what I wanted. I want an island, but
Mm-hmm.
I feel like God knew if I got that island, Shem.
That's the end.
That's
We're
the
not
end,
seeing you no
know?
more.
So, but I've always been like, if I tell someone I want an island and they laugh at me, then I know I can't be friends with that person because they're not seeing the same thing I see.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if you have people who think like you and who want to go as far as you, it doesn't have to be in the same direction, but it's as long as it's not backwards, but it's far.
Yeah.
Then you guys will innately push each other to do better.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how no one wants to be with a broke person. Like it's really the same thing. So if you're the smartest person you have around you, then you gotta change that immediately.
Yeah.
Because what you can achieve in 1 year with other people around you versus by yourself are two different things.
Yeah.
And I think life is a puzzle, so everyone brings something different to the table, and it's just about knowing how to use the people skills around you to generate what you need to generate.
Okay. So guys, find friends.
Facts.
Find a community, like-minded people, people that are doing what you want to be doing. Get acquainted, get connected, do something. Don't just stay there. I think this is something that I've, like, as I grow, like, this is something that I keep hearing repeatedly, that you don't have to do things alone. You don't have to do things alone. And in my head, I'm always just like, I'll figure it out on my own, right? But it's just wastes so much time.
Yeah.
And it's just not worth it. The brain energy that you use to do that is just not worth it. So I definitely agree with you with finding people that are like-minded, people that will practically go out of their way to make sure you do certain things that they know that you're good at, right?
Yeah.
So thank you so much for that. And so my next question is, you were talking earlier about funding, right? Can you just give me, what is that for you? Because I actually heard that you're like a really good grant writer. Like, it was so funny because
rumors?
you know that, like, somebody came to the bank once. I think they were depositing a check for a film industry, and then I just mentioned your name. Like, I was just randomly speaking to them, and I mentioned your name, and they were just like, they know you, and they were just like, man, she can write a hell out of a grant. Like, every grant she writes, she gets. And so I was just thinking to myself, like, what are you putting in these grants that you end up getting them? You know what? Let me rephrase this. What I really want to ask you is, how do you do it? I heard that you're a really great fund writer.
I want to know who's telling you these things. So
I've heard it from so many people. It isn't even just one person.
Guys.
These people think this about you.
People, they must stop thinking.
Please give us something to work with here.
So my parents are independent workers. So even though my mom works at UCT, she has to get her own salary with grants.
Oh, she works at UCT.
Yeah, she works at University of Cape Town. So yeah, she has to write grants to be able to, like. So a lot of the times growing up, I would sit with her and we would come up with titles and we would like.
It's in her blood.
We would come up with titles and she'd be like, okay, what do you think about this? Because she's a public health economist. So I would help her with the grants. And it's the same thing for my dad. He would have to spend money for grants. So they're the two things where I got like making sure I knew how to write a grant from my mom and then how to spend the money from my dad. So when I got here, it was actually my partner who tried, like, he was like, oh, you know, you can get money for doing music. And I was just like, I don't know, like, it seems a bit far-fetched. And then I did one and I was like, this is I don't know, it's kind of just, it's fun. It feels like a game to me. Like, I feel like I'm trying to win the lottery. That's what it feels like, because it's kind of one of those things where you have to twist a generic idea to fill up a gap. And that's kind of what you do to get the money. So I think a lot of times people just try and do what everyone else is doing. But it's like, you notice that this is your environment. You're in Newfoundland. Well, there are no black people. Or there are no black people in positions or power, for example. So if you're now in politics, you've noticed that there are no black children who are joining debate clubs. Surely the next logical step is, let me see how we can find money to sponsor black children or people of color or whatever to go to more debate meetings. So basically, you're trying to look for the niche. You're trying to fill a gap that is missing. A lot of the times we see what has already been done and then we try and replicate it. So obviously, for example, now we live in Newfoundland. We know that diversity is a problem. We know that the sphere, healthcare or, you know, politics, for example, you don't see a lot of people of color getting into politics in Newfoundland. So that starts from the schools, right? Having debate clubs, because I know I always was part of a debate club, but I never really hear about debate clubs here. So for me, my train of thought would be, okay, cool. Kids of color, debate club, schools, competitions.
Yeah.
As a not-for-profit, if I wanted to start one or an initiative, I would then say, hi, government of Newfoundland, you guys are missing so and so.
Yeah.
This is what I bring to the table. These are the people I know that have the resources to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The government has money.
Yeah.
They need to spend the money. They need to spend it on people of color as well, because they're equity marks that they need to target and fill out to make sure. And a lot of the times, and if you like stone me, I don't care, but a lot of the times it ends up going to Indigenous people, because those are the people that are there, and those are the people who are speaking for what they need. I think a lot of times as immigrants and Black people, we're so comfortable just accepting what we're giving. And at the end of the day, firstly, I'm a child of God, so I own what He's put on.
You have an inheritance.
So it's mine in the first place.
It's yours,
But you just you can't try and claim something if you don't even know there's anything to claim in the first place, right? So making sure you look at the gaps, and even in terms of for example, with film, if someone had already been doing it, I wouldn't have done it. I would have added to the idea, but I wouldn't have done it. A lot of people don't like to do their research. They don't like to see what's out there, what's missing, what you could make better. So what I now do is I have a book and I actually write down a bunch of ideas. I write down what I'm willing to give away if someone asked me. This includes everything. This includes for ideas. This includes funding businesses. This includes ideas for TV. I have ideas, my giveaway column that I can give away if someone wanted me to. I have my I will never. You can be holding my face to a fire. You will never get it out of me. And I have the until I have money, I can't do it. And I have the I can do it now. I just need time to finish what I've started. Because everywhere you look, there are things that need to be fixed. And people just don't look at life that way. You're standing in Costco, you're lost. Surely there should be a map on your phone to go and know where you're going in Costco. Things like that. And I think it's a training of the mind to make sure that you're solution orientated. And it doesn't mean that it's every problem you're going to solve, but at least you've started that solution orientated. In terms of getting the grants themselves, you kind of just have to look out for it. I find Newfoundland is very accessible. If you go to the department that is appropriate to the grant that you're trying to get, they will let you know when things are coming up. Even if the season has already passed. So it's just about being patient and, and don't rush the grant writing process, because sometimes people rush, and a lot of times you can tell this person's just trying to get the money, which we are, but at the end of the day, it's for the greater good, So.
That is so good. I was listening. I didn't want you to stop because you were dropping gems. And I hope you are listening. The people that are trying to start businesses, the people that are interested in grant writing, I hope that you're listening. You have to strategize.
Yeah, but you got it.
You have to strategize. And you have to plan. You have to ask questions. Do the research. Do the work. Guys, do the work. I feel like for me, this is something that I'm actually starting to get used to thinking. Mindset, do the work. You have to 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 do the work. No one is going to do it for you. Nobody cares that much about you. Do the work.
Yeah,
okay?
They care. Don't worry.
They don't
care. But one more thing. Also, don't limit yourself to where you are. Just because St. John's or Newfoundland already has a problem fixed doesn't mean that somewhere else in the world doesn't need that solution. Because we are, especially post-COVID, globalization has really become the word of the century. You can live anywhere and solve the problem
and do something.
Even if it's just to make sure that you have a good idea. Also, if it's already done, just research where else you could do it. There's so many entities. UN is one. There's so many global entities. There's so many actual companies who have nothing to do with not-for-profits that have to give away money for sponsorships to fulfill their quota.
So there's definitely space and room for everyone. So don't limit yourself. And so I would say the last question, something that I'm just curious about is, being in Newfoundland, I think the creative space is not a very prevalent one, or I don't really see a lot of people going that direction. So how do you become a creative in terms of your career? How do you find your place? How do you find a career in as a creative in Newfoundland?
The first thing I would say is you need to know what you want to do. That's the first thing. And then obviously you need to know what pays the bills. So even though I'm a full-time creative in Newfoundland, I have creative parts that are still malleable to like, I guess what the world would call a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so that then I can use that money to do my actual passions, which is like music or producing and stuff like that, right? So the first step is to actually be a creative, and then to see how your creativity can fit into different aspects of not just the industry, of different 9 to 5s and different things that bring money to the table. And also finding a community. Networking is so important as a creative. Not just networking between like your community. For example, as a Black creative, it's so easy for me to be drawn to other Black creatives, but that's not how it works. You need to network with other races, other cultures, other communities, people outside of Newfoundland. And yeah, so network.
Yeah, networking is so good. Networking is a skill. I find like, you know, with networking, you have to put yourself out there, but you also have to genuinely be interested in the people that you're speaking to.
Building.
It's not just about getting something from somebody. It's about also giving, listening, being curious, right? So networking is a really, really big thing. It works. Everything you've said today has been so relevant and so resourceful, and we really, really appreciate having you come and join us for a conversation. Thank you for making the time. And so before we let you go, we do this thing called the rapid 3 questions. So I'm just going to ask you 3 questions, and as fast as you can, just answer whatever comes to the top of your head. Okay. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. So first question, what's the best advice you've ever received?
Oh, oof, this is hard. This is not rapid. These aren't rapid questions. What's the best advice I've ever received? Oh, yes. The one was, if you don't practice, even people with no skill will get ahead of you. That one is the best one I've ever gotten.
Yep. So good. Sorry guys, I practice. I would die on that hill. Practice for everything. Like, yeah. Okay, second question. What's the worst advice someone has ever given you?
Yeah.
Or you've ever heard?
That I've ever heard? Oh, that I've ever heard. Oh, it's not advice though. Was it advice? Oh, someone told me once to get a job at a like Walmart or whatever, just to like do what I need to do so I can do what I have to do. And for me, that's terrible advice. No offense, but like, because then it's just like, then it doesn't allow the person to do what they actually have to do. It's just, then the person is living to survive and not actually surviving to live.
Yep. Sorry. I just agree on such a high level. That's why. And the last question, what would you tell your younger self?
You go, girl.
Period. Okay, so thank you so much for having
me
here. Thank you so much. Talking to you is always it's so fun. Like, I feel like every time I talk to you, I just learn so much more. And you really are somebody that is doing a lot. You're just lovely.
Thank you.
You're just lovely.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you so much for joining this episode. We'll see you on the next one. See ya.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Mind the Gap. I hope you had a great time with us. All the resources from this episode will be linked in the show notes. And please follow us on all our social media handles. And don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this episode with someone who needs it. Until next time, bye!